Are you an iPhone or Android person?
Android.
Maybe it's wise to have a lesser phone.
Oh, maybe. I like technology when it's efficient and helpful and user-friendly.
The general population is into it, you know?
Yeah.
And so
I was really resistant to social media when it first became popular.
Okay.
It's just not my personality.
Sure.
But then when I started to use it more, I was noticing that I didn't like the way I was feeling around it.
Sure. But then all of a sudden now it's like to get more likes, to get, more engagement, you have to do a little more. I'm Aaron here. I'm talking with Jess Figlio, and we're going to be talking about the latest message on Sunday that we had from our series Book Club. We talked about the tech-wise family and being just kind of conscious about our tech use and all of that, and then helping our families do that well. We're going to dive into that in a second. But first, I just wanted to have you introduce yourself a little bit, share a little bit about who you are, and then we'll dive in.
Sounds good. I'm Jess Figlio. I am mom of 4, ages 9 to 5, and I've been attending Centerpoint for about 2 years. I love being outdoors. I love mental health and wellness, and lots of passion around that. And
we're just talking that
love
you
good
do
conversations.
yoga, right?
Yeah, I teach yoga. Love running.
I would say you're big into the races.
Yes.
I
mean, I shouldn't say races because I'm not especially fast.
Okay.
More of like endurance and distance. But I love being outdoors and running.
Like you got your husband Mike into it too a little bit now. So like you guys are doing like 10Ks?
Trail runs,
we
did like what was it? 27K, which is like 15, no, it's like almost 17 miles. It's a weird number. It was in Tennessee. That's been our longest together. My next goal is a 50K, which is 30. Okay. So that's what I'm working towards in the fall.
Who's more into it now, you or him?
He's into rucking. So rucking is when you wear like weights. He wants to beef it up, make it more, I don't know, challenging.
Every time I see him, I'm always like, what are you doing to work out? And he's like, I'm just lifting the kids. I'm like, I think there's more than that.
The running.
There's more than that.
The running, yeah. But no, he likes the trails, and we like to be outdoors with it, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you have 4 kids.
So we have 4, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's how you
we're
stay fit.
busy.
Yeah.
Super busy season with them, but it's so fun.
Awesome.
But they're a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, let's start diving into a little bit about technology.
Okay.
Are you an iPhone or Android person?
Android. I know. I'm like so not. I don't even know how to use an iPhone. I swear. It's bad.
What about your husband? Same?
He's Android.
Oh.
We're an Android family. I know. Well, no, he did have an iPhone for work briefly, but Android.
I think that will solve your tech issues if you just
I
got
know.
an iPhone.
There's probably so much more I can. Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe it's wise to have a lesser phone.
Oh, maybe. Maybe one day I'll jump on the iPhone.
Yeah, maybe.
Wagon.
But in general, I guess a little bit more serious now, how would you say your relationship with technology is? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you get addicted to it? Do you not? How would you just generally say your relationship with it is?
I think I'm more on the hate end of the spectrum.
Okay.
I don't hate all of it. It definitely makes things a lot easier, right? In our lives and at work. And so I like technology when it's efficient and helpful and user-friendly. And then there's the social side of it, which, I like pieces of it, but I've actually kind of grown away from that a lot over the last few years. So, I'm kind of more on the, I don't know that we need it. It is very helpful, but I can live without it.
Yeah. When you say grown away from it, is there a big reason for that? Or are you seeing benefits of that even? Or?
Well, mental health really. When social media I was really resistant to social media when it first became popular.
Okay.
It's just not my personality.
Sure.
But then when I started to use it more, I was noticing that I didn't like the way I was feeling around it.
Sure.
A lot of times where I was thinking about things too much. So I feel much better mentally when I take breaks from it. Okay. So I'm just more cognizant of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to dig into it a little bit more.
Go ahead.
So when, how did you have that self-awareness of I just don't like how I'm feeling from this? Did you have to pause for a second? We're really getting into it right away.
Yeah, I love it. This is what I love. Well, I think requires self-awareness just to notice what your thoughts are and like where your thoughts are going, like to being mindful, right? So I talk about yoga. So I practice mindfulness in general. So like when I'm aware, like why am I thinking about a post right now? Like I'm getting anxious around, especially when I had littles and I was like postpartum and I'm like, reading about too much stuff. And I could feel that anxiety. Yeah. And so when I was like, you know what, I'm going to just like take a break. And then I didn't feel it as strong. It became very obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when you would notice you're feeling something that you don't like per se, or like that just seem wrong, anxiety, stress, worry, like whatever it is, you kind of removed yourself almost from your own self per se, and like why is this happening, and then looked at the causes, potential causes, and one would be like technology. I'm looking at this post, and so then that was kind of how your self-awareness came about with it, is just removing, acknowledging, and then trying to see if it fixes it from it, correct? Or?
Yeah, it was just like taking a break from it for a moment.
Yeah.
I did that thing with maybe a lot of people do where like I took the app off the phone and then the next day I put it back on. Like I just kept going back and forth. But it was just like taking a break and being aware of how I felt when I took a break.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I like to share a little for me, like I'm wrestling. I'm in it right now. Like I like tech. I like the use of it. I use it for work all the time. Like a big part, because there's so many people on it. Both our church and unchurched people who I want to engage as well. So it's like I'm in it, but I also just don't like it.
Yeah.
And so it's just this tension that I am in.
Well, it almost feels like you need it to really connect with people, which is challenging because I also try to connect with people, and I started a podcast and things like that. But I don't want to do it through those channels. I'd much rather just be sitting across from somebody.
Yeah.
But like you just don't reach the same amount of people, right? So it's challenging. It's like trying to navigate all that.
But that's my biggest struggle, is like I don't like it for me, but so many, like the people that I want to engage, like the general population is into it, and so it's like I don't want to. So that's just why I am just like so in it right now. But anyways, that's me.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of going into the message that happened on Sunday, I brought up the tension of like magic and toil.
Oh yeah.
And like, what are some things like just for fun right now, like that you wish like could just happen, magic, like boom, just be done.
Well, bedtime, right? Like that would be great.
Yes. Or just like
you're asleep.
You walked in today and you saw my children crying. It would be nice to be like, fix that.
You're happy. Everyone's happy. We're through our moods, and the house, the laundry, all the things that never get done, the cleaning.
Yeah.
Peace. Like, how about peace in the house?
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page about that for sure. Do you think like we as people, like we say that and things can come to mind pretty easily, but do you think we like to skip over toil? And do you think like we should experience toil at times? Like, what do you think about that?
100%. I feel like it's our culture. Like, think about all the, lose weight fast. You don't have to like take a pill or do that. Like everybody wants the outcome or the result without doing the work. I feel like it's just because it's hard. The work is hard, but that's where we grow and that's where we learn. So I feel like it's super important.
And do you see a tie there with technology a bit? Like where it is kind of this magic, like just join this group or, like engage with people online and it's easy, or read this,
and you get that. I mean, they even have, studies about like what it does to your brain, right? And like the dopamine, like you're getting that instant, like, good feeling, but it's like very temporary and fleeting, and you're not really doing the work.
Yeah.
Well,
I went down kind of a rabbit hole because Sunday's message was long, very long. But I went down kind of a rabbit hole of like talking about evil in a sense of like kind of this evil that could be part of the fact that's pulling us even towards some of our technology use. Have you ever thought of it that way? Like that this skip over toil, and then all of a sudden this thing that like just demands so little of us to start, you know, it's like, oh, just post one picture, or you know, and it's not that big of a deal. But then all of a sudden now it's like, to get more likes, to get, you know, more engagement, you have to do a little more.
Yeah.
Do you see some parallels with like evil there,
Oh
or
yeah, for sure. And the whole idolatry thing is pretty like evident to
yeah,
me, and how you can, make your own self, an idol through social
yeah,
media,
yeah,
but also I see it a lot in like just the scrolling that can happen. Like for me, like it's still tempting late at night to
yeah,
just, just scroll and like, what am I watching? And I watch like horrible reality TV. Like that's what I do.
sure,
I'm not even looking at people. I should turn the TV on,
yeah,
and it's bad.
yeah,
Like Real Housewives, guys, like
yeah,
embarrassing. And the stuff is not good that I'm
yeah,
watching, right? And then that's, to me, can kind of lend towards the evil side. Like, just, I don't know that I need to be like engaging in this
yeah,
type of stuff. So, yeah,
yeah.
I think and then you can go even further. The stuff you have access to is just, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just so, like, it's one of those things that just we do, and I think a lot of us don't really process like what's really happening during that time. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'm seeing this reel, and all of a sudden my mind's just comparing myself to that person, and like I think I'm better than I actually am, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm now intrigued by this thing that I never once thought of, but I saw this ad because I let it, you know, like, and it's just over and
Yeah,
over
the
that.
ads are just crazy too. And that's, yeah.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. All right, so we sense that, and we talked a little bit about like technology and how you've kind of removed, but like, do you still struggle? Like, you shared a little bit, like you get caught into reels, like, is that the only way you would say you kind of struggle these days with it, or is there
Yeah,
other?
I've really kind of taken a break from even posting and sharing,
Sure. Like
because
on
then I find
Facebook, you're
myself
talking, or
checking if
Instagram.
people, right? I don't want to check back and see if people liked it, or I don't know, I'm kind of valuing privacy in my family life right
Yeah.
now. But where I get caught up is like with that tired, like zoned out, like
Yeah.
late at night. I just want to watch really bad reality stuff, or I'll just get, scroll, I'll watch ads or
Yeah.
different like videos. And I know, like, I am aware while I'm doing it, like, this is probably not the best use of the last hour of my day.
Yeah.
There's so many better things I could be doing. So that's really where the temptation is for me recently.
Yeah. I I would agree. Like, for me, it's like, it's Facebook is probably the one that I'm like. I think Instagram is like more popular these days, but Facebook, and then
I'm still on
some
Facebook
YouTube.
too, yeah.
But it's like that I can go down a rabbit hole of like, oh, I wonder what so and so's doing, you know, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, why they're not even in my life anymore, you know, like, and it's like now I'm just comparing, and it turns in, so like that is something, and then it's like, how many likes and all that, like I know it's wrong, I know I shouldn't be, but it's this
And then the
thing that
comment
just
section, that doesn't seem like a good place to be when
correct,
you're looking at and then the heated, it's just like, yeah, I just feel like
yeah,
none of that is really positive.
yeah. And we're talking about like a lot of the negatives. Like, there are positives, but it just feels like there's so many
Definitely.
negatives that sometimes we just skip over if we're not almost self-aware of it, you know?
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. I don't know if you remember, but like we talked about the book. So the TechWise family, Andy Crouch is the author of this, and he had like kind of 10 commitments. He talked about 10 things that
Mm-hmm.
like that he saw himself like as kind of these like ideals for his family, and for like ways to kind of combat being consumed by tech and being a little bit wiser with it. Do you remember seeing any of those? Was there anything that like stuck out to you, like, or I mean, again, there's 10 of them, quite a few, but we talked about like wisdom and courage together as a family, a rhythm of work and rest, like having a Sabbath, like any of those other ones, like.
Yeah, I do remember the ones that you've touched on a little bit more, like the wisdom. I thought was really good, and just like, asking yourself what you're looking at, because like you said,
Yeah,
there is a lot of positive, and you can, have a positive experience as a family on any of those,
yeah,
screens or technology, but being like, is this something that you're gaining wisdom from? Is
yeah,
it really honoring you and your family? And I really like the Sabbath one, taking those
yeah,
breaks,
yeah,
which some of them seem like the week, or what seems kind of hard, but
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
We'll get into that in a second
yeah.
here. So, um, yeah, some of them are so interesting to me, like, because again, like, this is like he's kind of looking at scripture, but he's also kind of looking at the world and the technology and also his family. So like some of it's biblical, some of it's more just like his preference, and like so
Yeah.
he's a unique guy. Like it's like we are gonna like one of his thoughts was as a family we're gonna create the music we listen to. Like that was one of their commitments, and like my family is very musically inclined. Like, as we have multiple guitars in here, and Sydney's leads worship, but like
Yeah.
that's not every family, and so I think that with if you're gonna read this book, you need to kind of take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, of like which ones work well for your family and not, and which ones are the most beneficial. Because 10's a lot. 10 is absolutely a lot.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. So before we dive into like a couple of the three specific ones we talked about on Sunday, we talked about like nudges, disciplines, and choices. So like the nudge was like kind of reducing the area around you of like the opportunity to go to tech, whether it's like not having Wi-Fi or a TV in every room, like just like setting up an atmosphere so you don't get hooked into it. That was nudges. Disciplines is like setting up kind of like, this is what I do. I no longer look at reels at night. I put my phone here or whatever it is. And then the choices are just like our response, right? Like our cognitive response to whatever disciplines we have in place. Do you like, have you thought about using those? Have you used those before? Is that a struggle?
I think I've used all of them. I do like nudges. I like to just remove, especially for the kids, like let's just remove the temptation.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'm just ready to like throw away all the screens, like
Yeah.
in those moments in parenting, we're getting rid of everything. And then like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I definitely like to remove the distractions. I've tried to like have a container for phones, which it did not work well for Mike and I, or very long. But I think just removing that is really, especially for the kids. And then the discipline, like the timers I've done with social media at night.
Yeah.
So, but there's a snooze option. So that was my choice, is hitting the snooze 2 times. So usually I hit it at least twice. So again, like just putting it on the bed would be, or on the nightstand would be better. So
I've yet to do the timers. Like I've yet to set it up, and my wife has. Like she's done it personally, and like I was sharing with her because this has just been a very common thing we talk about over the past, I would say, 6 months or so. But like for me, like I'm like I should set up the timer, and Sydney's like, well, there is the snooze out. Like you can just, it's so easy to skip over.
It is.
But like the thing for me, it's like it's at least a start.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's at least something, and like yeah, we make bad choices all the time of like snooze. I don't care, but like it's at least a start, and so like that's. Right now, I have yet to start that, and that is my push right now. It's like, I need to take the time to set it up, actually, instead of like keep talking about maybe I'll set it up at some point, like, so that's something on my radar, and I think it is so important to just start taking those steps to have the nudges, have the disciplines, and start small, but start somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we talked about the three specific commitments on Sunday, and what they were is like we develop wisdom, courage together as a family. The second one we talked about was we are designed for rhythm of work and rest. So 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, and 1 week a year, we turn off our devices and worship, feast, play, and rest together. So the Sabbath one. And then the eighth, or the last one we covered was spouses have one another's passwords, and parents have total access to children's devices. So that first one. What did you think about that one? Like, have you done that with your kids, or do you have like some prompts from Sunday that you maybe want to try some things a little bit differently, such as like, again, developing the wisdom and the courage as a family instead of on your own with tech?
Yeah, I mean, my kids don't have a lot of alone time with.
Because your kids are young still, right?
Because they're young. I mean, the video games are probably the most alone time, and I don't love video games, but is something we definitely have boundaries with. But I think when we start to approach more, doing it together, I think is a really wise decision to go with wisdom. But yeah, I think it would be, ideal and a good plan to do it together and make those choices. Like when we're watching TV, we do that together. But I don't like them to just, there's so much options now on TV. So like we're intentional about that. So that could be an example of how we do that together now.
Yeah.
But
I'm a much younger parent than you, as in like I have, my oldest is 4, so I'm still newer to parenting. But like one of the things that like is so on our radars. Like we want to have, like, this is the tension we're in. We want to have the discussion with our kids, like about like what they're seeing and why that's happening. But then we also don't really want them to even be exposed to it at the same time.
Right.
And so like part of me thinks like that is figuring the wisdom of tech use. It's like how not just like getting rid of it, because like I don't foresee tech going away.
Right.
But it's like how do we engage with it appropriately, have discussions, you know, and like whether it's TV shows or, you know, what they see, what they heard, how to limit their, and like why they should limit their, like we talk with Eliza, we're like, I think what would we say? Your eyeballs are gonna get stuck like this if you watch TV for too long. You know, like because she
Right.
loves TV, and but like that's maybe wrong, but it's one of those like we are trying to help her see that it's not good for your brain. It's not good for your body to see stuff.
We try to instill that with AJ because he's one that's very inclined to play video games.
Yeah.
That he loves. His brain wants to solve things all the
Yeah.
time, so he can get really. But I always tell him like, let's leave space for like other things because there's so many other talents you have,
Yeah.
and like let's be creative and
I like that. Yeah.
and so let's use our brain for all the things you're gifted with. And
Yeah.
so that's one way we approach that. And I just remember one other thing is YouTube is my kids are a
Yeah.
little bit older, and also like friends that have devices when
Yeah.
they get together and they can watch whatever they want. So we have talked about YouTube quite a bit. Like there's some things you can be have access to that isn't appropriate, might scare you.
Yeah.
So just don't just browse it. You have to be intentional.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into the next question I was going to ask you. Like, do you see transparency in the family as important? Like,
Yeah.
kind of having honest, raw conversations about the mistakes or not that happen, maybe between siblings, kids, maybe between you and your spouse. You know, all of that. Like, do you see transparency as important for the family unit as a whole? And let's stay with like technology use. You think that? Can you see how that?
I mean, in general, I do, but I think it's really important. And then, I haven't really thought of it like so specifically with technology, but
Yeah.
I do think it's definitely important because, especially as my kids start using it more, and they'll hold us accountable sometimes, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're on your phone, like, watch me, we want to do this or that, and then it's like, okay, like,
Yeah.
wake up call, I need to put this down. So,
Yeah.
I do think it's super important. And I think it is really great that they can come to us. And so it doesn't always have to be parents going to them.
Yeah.
Like we can be held accountable.
Yeah, that's a hard tension because I was thinking about this even too, like the transparency of like maybe sharing with my kids, like I don't really want to use my phone all the time, or be around my phone all the time. Like the other day, last night specifically, Claire, who's 2, she's like, no phone, no phone. And like, because she wanted to read a book. And I'm like, what is going on with me? I just preached a message. And so it's like kind of even having like the conversation, even again, they're young, but it's like daddy's gonna leave his phone here, or like, and having them see that, yeah, it is a struggle, but I'm trying to be intentional about this, and like, I think them seeing that it becomes a struggle even for adults helps them maybe be more open about their own personal struggles in the future. Like a 6-year-old to say like, I just love TV, well, let's talk about why, like just like I love my phone, I have to put it away once in a while, and like
Right.
kind of helping them see that disciplines are important. Again, I'm a new parent, right? So it's like these are ideals in my mind, but to put those into action is different. But like if they can see kind of some of that struggle from you and your openness going through it, I think that's meaningful.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that goes across everything. But with technology, I think it just helps them build awareness. And then if you can point out, like, you remember when we took that break and we did this instead? Wasn't that fun? So I've done that before. Yeah. Like, AJ, as much as he loves his video games, he also loves being outside. So I'm like, remember that walk? Like, this is stuff you
we went to been able to see that or do that.
Yeah, like that was so much better. So yeah, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go to the second one, which I'll read it again for you. It says, we are designed for a rhythm of work and rest. So 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, and 1 week a year, we turn off our devices and worship, feast, play, and rest together. You think that's doable? Like, would it be beneficial?
I got a little confused at first. So it's 1 hour a day,
1 day a week.
1 day a week, 1 week.
1 week a year.
A whole week.
Yeah.
That one's a big one. But no, I actually think I would really love that.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have to like not be working. You know, it's all those other things that we're attached to our phones for. It's not just social media. Like it's email and we're so like our calendars like, but those can all be like major distractions too.
And he talks about like, so really applying this, he talks about like, they still like when they're on that week, it's like they still like play music or use maps or look up a review or whatever, but it's like one of those like you're turning off like kind of the interaction with the tech world, so to speak, or like other people.
I feel like that I would love that. We would just have to be really intentional about it.
The 1 hour a day, I think is pretty simple for a lot of people because it's dinner time. I guess maybe when I say simple, that maybe that's too forward thinking, because I think like it is hard probably to say no, we're not going to have it for dinner time for some people, and I get that. But that's a really good start, right? So it's like dinner time or bedtime. It's like I'm very invested with my kid, you know, like for that 1 hour, or family or spouse, right? The 1 day a week is tougher, you know, because it's like, how do you do that? Again, I shared, for me, I'm not quite there yet. So like for me, it's my Sabbath or day of rest is Sunday afternoon. So I work Sunday mornings. That's what my job is, right? So, but afterwards, when I'm kind of finally done, we celebrate Sabbath by like I got it from another book that we did. We call it pleasure stacking. So like we have the best foods, we have a fun thing planned, like, and it's just like we go all in as a family. Like, we're having ice cream today, or we're having 2 desserts or whatever it is, you know, because we try to make it like this special thing that happens only on Sundays. You know, it's our Sabbath, or it's our rest day, and so like I'm getting to the point where we would do less phone use, you know, where I'm more engaged. We're doing stuff as a family. We're resting. So I'm like at a few hours, you know, during that time, like let's say 1 o'clock to when we go to bed. I think maybe 4 or 5 hours are without a phone. But the 1 week a year is hard.
Yeah. But even just talking about the 1 day, I'm like, 1 day is kind of challenging. Like the entire day, you'd have to be like really intentional about it. I love the idea. I think it's definitely doable, but it's just that intentionality. Like you have to be super.
It's the discipline, right? You know,
discipline.
It's like
discipline. Yeah, absolutely. But you would probably just really enjoy that day. And you're just so much more present.
Yeah. I had a dinner with a couple who they don't have social media.
Okay.
And I was like, I knew I was doing this message. I'm like, do you like it? They're like, oh, it's so awesome. And like,
so awesome not to have it?
Yeah, they're like, we had it all. Like at one point, I was so into it, you know, and then it just didn't, like you were kind of saying, I didn't like what it was having me become and what I would think about. And it's like, I think about that, think that'd be great. I like the benefits of tech still at the same time, but it's like to see that tension and to keep that as like a viable option, I think is important. You know, at some point there's a time where it might be like, you know, I just need to stop, you know, and take a full on, you know, Sabbath, or, you know.
A lot of people do that, like for Lent, they'll take a break from social media. And I think there is such a freedom, because it's like, think about the distraction that it is. Like, it's just, there's so much freedom in that, for sure.
Okay, so a little bit of break before we go into the third one.
Sure.
I talked about TV dinners, and like how the concept of TV dinner, like it was this hybrid of like you'd had zero work that went into zero toil that went into the meal itself, and then like there was no real conversation either, because the TV was your conversation. It was like kind of like relationships just kind of slipped during that time. But for fun and for sake like of that, like, do you remember like TV dinners? Like, did you buy TV dinners? Did you what's your memory with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna age myself because I'm like probably 10 years older than you.
Sure.
So when I was, I don't know, like 10ish, what was on TV? It was like Three's Company.
Okay.
I just remember this. I was probably younger than 10. But there was like 2 shows on MASH.
Yeah.
Do you even know these shows?
Yeah.
Okay. And we had TV dinner trays, literally tables. And yeah, the TV dinner, there was Salisbury steak. Yeah. They were so good. No, it's probably so disgusting. Yeah, that's what we did. And sometimes we ate around the table. I have to say though, we watch TV at meals, and I probably just because every once in a while, because that's how I was raised. But that was really normal.
Yeah. Huh. I remember that, like, I don't remember like vividly eating like TV dinners. Shout out to my mom, I guess.
Good job, Chris.
Good job.
Don't eat that food.
I don't remember that, but we did have the TV, like the tables, like you're talking about, like the TV, like
Oh, yeah.
like there was like a stand for them. I
Yep.
remember, like, and you had like 4 of them. Like that was a thing. Like you could have like and they could go in like a little cubby area of like, here's your 4 wooden tables, and then you fold them out. And
I do have to say though, I feel like it is like a generational thing because back then, like watching TV was more like a pastime. Not to be
Yeah.
like, oh, TV's great, but it
Yeah.
was just different because you literally had like 2 options. You watched it together, talked about it maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's just it's very consuming. But yeah,
yeah.
I definitely have memories around it.
All right. Now, for the last like kind of commitment that we talked about, so spouses have one another's passwords and parents have total access to children's devices. What do you think of that? Do you agree with that one? Do you struggle with that one?
The passwords one?
Yeah.
I mean, the spouse one, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But
Sure.
I don't know. I guess for me, I'm like, I trust my spouse and I know it's not about trust, but that's
Yeah.
just where my head goes.
Yeah.
I think it's about transparency and accountability, which I do, I think I hold him accountable in like not the best way. Like I've seen a video where like the wife and the husband are on the phone and the wife puts it down for like 1 second earlier and
Yeah.
then she's like, are you going to be on your phone all night? Like I
Yeah.
totally do that. So that's not the best way either, but trying to like hold each other accountable I think is really important.
Yeah.
But with the kids, I absolutely feel like I'm going to have
Sure.
all their information.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just feel like we have to be aware of
Yeah.
what's going on.
And I would say I'm in a similar situation, if I'm understanding you correctly, like where, like, well, I showed that video about passwords. Our password is basically the same for like everything, like,
Oh, God, that was a funny video. That was laughing at that. That was really funny.
But yeah, so I like it just where like there is no, like there's nothing private between Sydney and I personally.
Yeah.
So it's like everything's like on the table, and I think that has created this healthy trust even. And so there's no real like even challenge, but like it's
Yeah.
just like it's all on the table, and I think that's important. And I think that's important to kind of have that be this model for your kids too. It's like everything's we're giving you these things. Everything's on the table right now, and so it's like we want to approach like, oh, if we see you messaging, we want to approach this with wisdom as a family and talk about this as a family. Like
Yeah.
because if let's say there's stuff happening that you don't know about or aren't able to catch, there's no real training or ability to teach the wisdom, or to
Right.
teach how to do it. So
Like modeling that.
yeah.
It's really important.
So is that something like that? Again, you have kids that are a little bit older than me, but not super old. Like, are you actively doing that? Not really. Like, not yet. Because
As far as
like just like kind of making sure what they're seeing or doing, or like you have access to it. You're making sure that it's what you want. Like,
yeah, I mean, right now it feels manageable since they don't have phones.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely really aware of what they're watching on TV. And, I'm very, like, I'm not in a hurry to get them phones.
Yeah.
It's not- they're going to be in 5th grade. So I think middle school seems to be
Okay.
the new common time, but I have like, my mind's going way further than that. And, we'll kind of approach that as we get there. But when they do get phones, though, I do see
Yeah.
myself being really involved. Like, what are you watching? Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. That kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll be praying for you and for me, like as our kids get older. Like 'cause
Yeah.
I can't imagine the stress and the toughness of those conversations as your kids are in middle school or high school, and it's like, stop, no, this is mine, and
Yeah.
it's like, no, like I care about you and I want to coach you and help you in this instead of it, because there's like just so many assumptions. I feel like I was a youth pastor forever, where it was like kids that are in middle school and high school instantly feel like, well, I know how to use tech. Like, I don't need your help. But it's like, it's not about knowing how. It's the wisdom of, like, what you should actually be doing and should not be,
Yeah. And I think
so-
there's a lot more information out there for young people that is, I think they're becoming more aware of why it might not be good for them.
Yeah.
Like, I really am seeing it. Like, and I think the more we can educate them, even if they don't like it, even though their peers have it, if we
Yeah.
can just explain to them, like, it's for their well-being, their mental health, like, think about, you know, I heard it put one way, like all the stuff you have to deal with at school, like, you know, your peers, imagine having that, taking school with you like all day long. There's just a lot of ways to like frame it. But yeah, I think it's just so important. And it's great that people are becoming more proactive with it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a discussion about this with
You're
me.
welcome.
And yeah, like I said, I'll be praying for us as we have multiple children, hoping that things go
and they're
well.
going to start resisting that. Mine are going to be resisting that very soon, probably. But
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.